What's going on, everybody? We are live once again, and I've got a great friend here, Tina Parker. I'm going to introduce her in a second, but I always like to make sure because LinkedIn's been crazy lately, and so is Facebook and YouTube. Just make sure that we're live. So before we quite get started, we'll just do some dance moves, like a screensaver or something. Um, but Tina, how are you today? While we wait to make sure people are there.
Hey, I'm great, Matt. It's so good to connect with you. I know we connect in other ways, haven't connected like this, so this is cool.
Yeah, yeah. I like going live because it probably creates a lot of fear for people, but for me, it gets rid of a lot because just like I can't change it. It's done. It's over.
Exactly. It is what it is.
Yep. So awesome. We are live. I can confirm video and sound. So we'll go ahead and get started. So welcome everyone to another live edition of By Hair, Land, and Sea. I'm super excited to share the journey of. I think I get it right. You're still actually a reservist, Air Force Colonel.
I am
Um,
Lieutenant Colonel.
Lieutenant Colonel. Well, you say it the same, Lieutenant Colonel. It's all confusing. But yes, Lieutenant Colonel. Uh, but that's not why we're here. I want to share Tina's story, her journey, what she's up to now, and kind of what a new, or not a new passion, but a new adventure based on her passions that she's creating. So, Tina, how are you doing today?
I'm good. It's great to be here live on your show and connect with your audience because you got a broad audience. So excited to be here and share value with them.
Yeah, super excited, and I love what you said. Shared value. That's the goal of this. That's why I do this. Is you have something. You and everyone that I have on has something to offer. Everyone in the world has something to offer to other people, and so I try to share that, and that's the goal today. So if you guys are there, we are live. So throw in a comment, throw in a question. If you know Tina, give her some love. If you don't, give her a high five. You made a new friend. Um, I taunted one of our friends, Jordan, to see if she'd join. So let's hope she does. So if you're there,
I know.
Jordan,
Well,
let us
she's in
know.
England right now, so if she does, she
Bonus
should be
point.
up late.
Yeah, bonus. That means you know how she feels about you if she stayed up.
So we'll see.
Yeah. So yeah, if you're there, let us know you're watching. Let us know where you're from. Ask a question as we continue. But Tina, you've got you're now a reserve colonel and or lieutenant colonel in the Air Force. You've been in and out of the government for many years, doing a variety of things. A lot of people know you kind of in the software world, around that kind of stuff, the government innovation space. But why don't you kind of tell us your journey and story of kind of how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, sure. So I recently left federal government after 23 years. So I do have 23 years in service as an Air Force reservist, and mostly in public affairs and combat camera, some dabbling in personnel and training and development. And then on the government side, it's I've been a director of communication, director of marketing for both the Air Force Innovation Catalyst AFWorks and for Department of Homeland Security for an international operations center focused on air and space security, or air and maritime security, sorry. So that was 23 years in government service. And throughout my entire time in government service, I've always been that person that sees gray and color where other people see black and white, right? And so seeing possibilities and opportunities that maybe others don't recognize has just been a strength that's come up consistently, and creating teams that are cohesive and work together and actually like working together. Like it's a whole new phenomenon when you enjoy being with your team. I just have a passion for that. And leadership has been really important to me. My first leadership retreat was eighth grade. So it kind of started early, right? And I just had the bug. So I went and got a master's in leadership and management, just really studied with some heavy hitters in the leadership space, experts like Marshall Goldsmith. He's the number one executive coach in the world. Joseph McClendon, Dr. Joseph McClendon, he's a neuropsychologist and a peak performance coach. So I've really been curious my whole life about what makes people tick. How can we go after our greatest goals, our greatest vision that we have, and still have a balanced life, like still have harmony in our life and not burn ourselves out completely. And just to give you a little bit of background on why that part is so important for me, is 12 years ago, I actually started a 4-year stint of my life where life was like, whoa, you need to choose something else because this is not working. Right. And it started off with, I mean, I was working, getting my master's degree, going through an executive certification at UCLA and doing reserve duty and, you know, all the things like all the people that are watching right now, everybody's got a ton of stuff going on. Right.
Yeah.
And I was pregnant at the time and ended up, I got sick and I just pushed through. So I was like, well, I got to be at work. I got to do all my stuff. And I ended up actually losing that first pregnancy to a
Wow.
stillbirth. And very shortly after that, got pregnant again. And thankfully, that one went well. And my daughter's 11 and she's amazing. And then right after that, the doctors were like, something's not right. And I actually had a cancerous tumor that would have killed me in 10 years had they not found it. And the reason I share that is because I almost didn't go. I almost did not go to the doctor's appointment to get screened for that because I had too much to do, right? Like everybody, I got too much on my plate. I can't miss work again. I'm not going to another doctor's appointment. And had I not done that, I literally would not be sitting here right now. And then shortly after that, got divorced. So, you know, like the whole, I would say trifecta, but that's a 4. So whatever that is, you know, and life was like, okay, what's going on here? On the outside, things are great. On the inside, not so great. And I really became a believer in the harmony between how we show up and what we achieve in life. It's not just about achieving. It's about who we're being and the life that we're living in the process. So things have shifted and switched, and it's completely 180 from what that experience was. And I have the greatest job now. I get to coach and guide other people in creating the life that they want, designing it by design, not just by default. So that's my story.
Well, and I love that story. And there's a couple parts I want to hit on. One is you talked about being, and one of my favorite quotes the last couple of years is, "The more I be, the more I am," because we don't spend enough time being. We don't, whether it's in the life environment or the work environment, it's go, 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 like you said. And even employers have made it hard, or the culture has made it hard for employers to implement that. Just like, hey, you've met your deliverable, just chill. But we just pound on more. You pound on more, and the better you do, the more they give you. Like you agree to get. I'm having somebody on, Michaela from Defense Unicorns, here soon, and we're going to talk about all of the hiring process because she's a hirer and recruiter. And but the culture we're around is so about like you get hired for this one thing, but then you go above and beyond that. Well, well, why do you got 4 hours left in your day? I'll give you more. It's like, no, celebrate them completing the job at the time they needed to, and
Absolutely.
just let them like breathe. But we're so stuck in that per hour mentality, salary mentality, that you have to like just keep going all the time. I even was on a call this morning about this with one of my coaches on the he calls it it's the toxic hustle community. So that kind of everyone's like hustle, hustle,
grind, toxic hustle and grind.
Yep, hustle and grind, hustle and grind. So I love that part of what you were saying, and we're going to get into that. As you know, I've been in new journey. I'm going to have Tina kind of live coach me through a couple things, so that'll be some fun. But I also want to point out, so you're unique in the fact that, like in the world, it is a fact there are a lot of people that are being more acceptable of coaching and mental health and actually putting this kind of stuff first. But what that also means is there's a lot of gurus. There's a lot of people that are like out there like, oh yeah, let me tell you how I did this. And they've been doing it for like 3 months. I want to highlight something that's different about you that you know, but others can know on the show is you're a 23-year military personnel. Like that is not something you just like, you have a lot of experience. Yes, you've been learning other things that make you better at what you do, but you have real life experience in leading, in guiding, in the bad, like you talked about, and the good work lifestyle balance. I just wanted to highlight that because there are a lot of gurus out there. There are a lot of people out there, but I know I've known Tina enough and I've talked to others because anyone that knows me as a journalist like her, we both went to the same schoolhouse in the military, just years apart. I've done my own research about Tina around the community and found people. And So I'm just trying to say that if you're here listening to Tina, I trust Tina. She's not a guru. She is somebody that truly believes in this stuff, and is really trying to help people.
Thank you, Matt, for that. And it's true. I mean, that's the thing. They talk about the coaching industry or the self-education industry is going to balloon to a multi-billion a day industry, right? It's crazy. And the thing for me is that's what I never wanted. I don't want to be like the flash in the pan. So for me, yes, I've spent 23 years in the trenches with teams doing the leadership thing. And at the same time, I recognized I don't know what I don't know. Yeah. And so I said, I'm going to go and learn from the masters. Who are the best people in the space to learn from? And that's why I'm in a mentorship with Marshall Goldsmith, right? The #1 executive coach in the world. He's coached Alan Mulally with Ford, Frances Hesselbein, Huber Jolly, right? And so, and also, like I said, with Joseph McClendon, being in neuroencoding, he's founded the Neuroencoding Institute, which really, and I'm a member of it, which really just means how do you function as a human being, right? Yeah. How do I know how I function as a human being so that I get a choice, right? Choice is freedom. I get to choose. Do I want to just default to the way I normally do just because of my psychology, or do I want to make a shift? And how do I make that shift? Right? That's the big thing. A lot of people go, yeah, I don't want this, but how do I shift it to something else? And that's the deep work that I've done, as well as a brain health trainer, right? So if you're familiar with Dr. Daniel Amen, he's got the largest catalog of brain SPECT scans in the world. So scanning how does the brain function in certain circumstances, right? And it just goes back to when we know how we function, we get to choose.
Yeah, and I love that piece because you also take a different perspective. And I want to ask a question on this: is understanding the brain and learning, because like you said, you don't know everything still, and learning about the brain and things you do. How have you seen that? What's a good example and a bad example in the military world that you come from, and in the executive world that? Yeah, I'll pause there.
So 2 things that I will share on that one. One, a personal story with my daughter. So my daughter, she's 11. When she was 6, we started noticing that she was struggling behaviorally, and we didn't want to do medication and all that stuff, right? It's a personal choice. Mm-hmm. And I was very familiar with Dr. Daniel Amen's work. So we took her to have a brain scan done because we said, okay, symptoms are showing up this way and doctors are labeling it a specific thing, right? But that's just looking at symptoms. What's causing this? That's what I really wanted to know. And so we took her and had the brain scan done. And thankfully we did, because the medication that they wanted to put her on for the symptoms would have been like putting gasoline on a fire for the way that her brain was functioning. And what's so amazing is now that she knows, like she's 11, right? But she knows how she functions. She knows she needs some more time. She knows this is what's going on in her brain. And so she's so fun. We'll be like, come on, let's answer this question. And she's like, my brain is thinking, I need some time. I'm like, well, okay. But the nice thing is she has compassion for herself now. She understands. So where so many of us struggle growing up and we go, oh, I'm stupid, or I'm so dumb, or it just takes me so long to get what other people get quickly. No, when you understand how you function, then you can tweak things to function at your optimal. And that's what's really important. And the other thing I will share too is when we look at the brain scans of people in the being, right? You brought up ways of being. Sometimes we say that and people are like, what are you talking about? So the way of being is just how are you? Who are you being while you're doing all the things you're doing, right? And in the scan, what the scan shows us is there was a lady who said, you know what? I'm writing a book on gratitude and I want to know what my brain looks like. Like, how's it functioning when I've meditated on gratitude? So she did the scan and it was very healthy, right? Cerebellum was healthy. That's where you get your coordination from, your ability to solve problems, to access information that you have in your brain. And it's like your motor coordination and your thought coordination. And so then she was like, but what would it look like if I was meditating on things I'm worried about or fearful, like most of us. Most of us are like, oh my gosh, the world's going to implode, or I didn't get this done, or what if this happens? Right. And so she meditated for 30 minutes. A couple days later, they did the same scan. The cerebellum shut down.
Wow.
You could see it in the brain. It was not functioning very well. And so that's the thing, is I talk to people about, how do you want to show up? Do you want to show up in peak performance physiologically and go from there? Or do you want to start by diminished capacity? Because how you choose to show up and the state of being that you choose to be in changes how you function as a person. It's not just, oh, I feel better, so I do better. I mean, that's true.
Yeah.
There's a reason behind it. Right. So that's what I've come to understand. And I can see how that plays out with how other people show up as leaders in different capacities and different experiences that I've had.
Sure. And then I love that. I love that example. So thank you for sharing that part of your life with us. I want to shift a little bit to the burnout. So you talked
Right.
about how your actual brain functions when you're doing different emotions or living different things. But so I'm going to use the example instead of, I'm going to use this live coaching moment. Um, so as a small business myself, a lot of people know, well, I'll use the word entrepreneur, not small business, because I have like 4 things that I'm creating. Um, so I'm feeling that burnout. I am feeling that, and I know a lot of this stuff. I use NLP and I use tapping and I use EFTs and I meditate and I go floating and I do all these things, but I'm still feeling that burnout. And for me, the way it used to manifest in like getting sick and things like that, I've made changes that way. For me, actually, the way it manifests the most is crippling anxiety. Like
Okay.
I wake up in the morning and I just feel like fully crippled and I can't even like breathe and move, of like, how am I here? What am I doing? This isn't going to work. And it only will last for a little while. I'm just wondering, from your side, how can one combat that? How can one do differently to help with that? Or in those situations, what would you offer someone to get through that?
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that too, because I think a lot of people feel like, oh, I'm the only one who experiences that.
Yeah.
Like, no, not by a long stretch. Right. And so I think the biggest part of that is, you even mentioned it. I'm waking up thinking about exactly what I said happened in that brain scan. I'm worried about all these things that are going to go wrong. Is
Hmm.
that true? Are they going to go wrong? Have they gone wrong before? And here's the other piece that's really powerful with this, is our psychology dictates the actions we take, or the actions we don't take, right? And that drives results that we get. And when I talk about psychology, what I'm talking about specifically is thoughts, feelings, and beliefs. So if you are starting out believing that it's all going to go wrong, that it's not going to work, that what if this doesn't happen? What if that doesn't happen? Right? You're already starting yourself in the swirl of, well, I'm not going to take any action because I don't know what's on the other side of that. Right? And that's the way our brain functions. Like, people would like to think that our brains are there to help us be successful. And that's not true, unfortunately. I wish it was. But your brain is to keep you alive. And what happens, the way your brain thinks and feels and operates, your brain doesn't feel, but the way it operates is in images. So when you are saying to yourself, this might go wrong, what if that happens? You're visualizing things going wrong,
Hmm.
right? That's what your brain is responding to. So what I would share with you is, the minute you notice that those thoughts are coming up, remember, the visions you hold in your head, that's what your brain is going to focus on, because where focus goes, energy flows. So you get to choose. You get to choose. Do I want to keep thinking about the things I don't want to happen and just wait for them to show up, because that's what's going to happen?
Hmm.
Or do I want to shift and go, hey, and ask yourself these questions? What do I truly want to create? What do I want to be celebrating at the end of today, because I've taken the actions and done the things that I truly want to create? Right? The questions that we ask ourselves are really, really powerful. And that just shifts, right? I say, what do I want to be celebrating? Then you picture yourself celebrating something really great.
Yeah.
And your mind goes, oh, that's what we're looking to do. Okay, cool. Thanks. And then it goes that direction. So that's a simplified version, and it takes repetition, right? Just
Sure.
because you do it one time doesn't mean the next morning you're going to wake up and I'm cured, right? That's not the way it works. You spend a long time getting to where you are now. It takes some time to undo that too.
For sure. I like that, and I think it's a good point to the vision part and the image part, and because I know enough about it that a lot of people don't realize that you see things or you comprehend things either in words or in pictures.
Exactly.
And as a dyslexic, I see things as a 3D image. And so hence why I get things. For those that don't know, with dyslexia, it's not just you getting letters mixed up. It's happening because we see a 3D image. And so depending on where I'm at, like in my head, looking at that image is what I see or spell, or like I am known famously on LinkedIn for having horrible spelling or missed words. My wife, I'm pretty sure, is a translator. When I text her, because I'll look back and I'm like, holy cow, because like I can process it. It's not that I can't process all the time. It's just moments that it changes, and then so I'll read back something. I'm like, oh, how did I think this was right? But it's how my brain perceives it. So I love that you brought up that images part,
Yeah,
because I've done a lot of learning on that images and how we see things that way, just because of
absolutely.
how to use it in my advantage.
Well, and I think a good point with that too is sometimes people who struggle in the standard education system, right?
Hmm.
Where flipping words, you see things differently. Y'all are the ones who exponentially blow people out of the water in entrepreneurial ventures and seeing possibilities and opportunities, right? And that's where the genius lies, especially now. Like with everything that's going on in the world, I'll share with you, I've interviewed so many real estate agents, insurance brokers, executives, some military leaders too, who are saying what used to work before 2020 is not working now. Like everything is different. People are thinking different. They're operating different. They have different expectations, right? And so the ability to step back and open your mind to see possibilities and opportunities instead of just going, well, that's not going to work and that's not going to work, right? The questions that you ask yourself and the things you visualize, it opens up your mind to so many other possibilities. So the way that you personally think, is actually a huge benefit and a strength when you're looking to see opportunities.
And that's the key point. And that's what I help people try to find is I this can be perceived wrong when I say this statement, but I am a bad employee as on paper because I will not just do what you tell me to do. I cannot just follow. That's my ADHD, that's my dyslexia, it's all the things in my brain, and just my personality. I can't just follow. Like, I will question it, I will change it, I will find a different way, I will find a different path. I'm
Sure.
not a great just go here. Like, and people always question. They're like, "Well, how did you survive in the Marine Corps?" It's like, well, because I wasn't focusing on the Marine Corps. I was focusing on the reason I joined. I was focusing on why I did it.
Your
And that,
purpose.
and that was what changed
Mhm.
it. And that was what I could deal with someone yelling at me, or I could deal with some doing what I was told because I wasn't focusing on the moment. I was focusing on the goal.
Absolutely. Yep. And you just touched on something really huge. So when people are starting to feel the burnout, they're starting to feel like they're just going through the motions and they're stuck. Focusing on that purpose is the first step, literally. Because just like you said, if you had approached the Marine Corps with, this doesn't fit me and I don't like doing all this stuff, every single step that you took would have been agony,
Mm-hmm.
right? You would have still been taking the same steps. You would have still been doing the same thing. But your purpose and the way you shaped it in your mind of why, your big why, your purpose for being there, that shifted everything about the experience that you had, right? And that's one of the big things is experience is just the meaning you've given something. Because the same exact neutral event, someone else may interpret completely different.
Sure.
And we get control over that. That's our control, how I want to perceive and the meaning I want to give things.
How are you controlling your new adventure? You've just left what you've known for a long time and creating all of these things. A couple we're going to talk about here in a minute.
Mhm.
How are you managing all of that?
That's a very good question because, yes, stepping into the unknown, right? For a lot of people, it's really scary. And it just is because you don't know what's on the other side. For me, what I will say is I go back to why am I doing what I'm doing? Why did I choose now, of all times, to leave the, I'm going to say, quote unquote, security of the federal government, right? It's a quote because, again, it's the experience that you have, and go all in on my own business, on coaching, on really on providing value and guiding people to create the best life and business that they possibly can. That's my purpose. It's my calling. I feel it in my heart. I've known it for a very long time and I've done the work, right? I'm not one of those people who woke up this morning and said, I think I'm going to be a coach. Yeah, I'm leaving my job. Like, that's not how it worked, right? It's been years in development. And now it really is about tapping into the purpose, the why, who I'm being while I'm doing this. It's aligning my actions with my intention and who I know that I am.
Mhm.
So, that's a big thing. A lot of times we burn out because our actions are not aligned with who we are. The things we're doing during the day or the way we're showing up in how we're doing them is not aligned with our true purpose and our true value. And so it takes extra energy to show up. It takes extra energy to do the same thing if it's not aligned with who you are. And that's one of the things, like, I love this work. I love it. I absolutely, it's like the biggest joy of my life to sit with someone and peel back the onion and help them see the opportunities and the possibilities in front of them, help them tap into who they really are so they can use those strengths to take that next step. Like, a lot of people are sitting on these amazing ideas and they're not taking action on them because they just don't know which next steps to take. And that's what I do. And I absolutely love it. So even if days are long, I'm energized because I love it.
And that's fantastic. And how can people? You talk about that is what you do. That's your passion. I know you got something coming up. How can people get involved or connect with you with what you're doing, and maybe get a taste of what you're trying to do?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually do have a 3-day event that's coming up at the end of the month. It's October 25th through 27th. It's called Scale Up. So scale is actually a methodology that I've developed over the past couple of years to take action on your big ideas, to really get clear on who you are and what you want, because clarity is one of the number one things to help you move forward, right?
Mhm.
So understanding who you are, getting clear about what it is you truly want to create, aligning your actions with that vision, and then stepping up as a courageously authentic leader to make it happen. Because a lot of times people think leadership is just about influencing other people. It's actually about influencing yourself as well. It starts internally and then radiates out to other people, right? And so that's what the scale methodology is, and it's about engaging community and creating just really creating what it is that you want in your life. So whether that's transitioning into a new career, whether that is stepping up into better leadership for your team, right? Whether that's developing your own business, it doesn't actually matter what it is. The process, the framework, the roadmap of how you show up, that's what really matters. And that's what's going to move the needle much faster than anything else. So that 3-day event is centered around that. And it's building out your roadmap, right? It's the framework is the framework. You bring the secret sauce to making it uniquely yours.
I love it. I love it. Well, Tina, thank you for joining. I love hearing. I love where we met 6 months ago, and we both completely are in very different things. Um, Explode in so many ways. So I love keeping up with your journey and what you're doing. And that's why I want to have you on, is kind of just share it. It is unique. It is different. And if you are not, I've been there. If you are not, I'll say it this way. When I wasn't ready to hear these kinds of things and make these kinds of changes, I was negative. I was like, oh, whatever. Yeah, just hokey pokey. You're just making stuff up. And so I have now made my own growth over the last multiple years, to find what works for me. And I'm not saying anyone that's listening that what Tina does and how she approaches things works for you. I'm saying she is good at it, and she's trying to help people learn to build their own life. And that's why I had her on. And that's why I had you on.
Yeah. I
And
love
so,
it. And also I'm open, I do one-on-one coaching as well, and group facilitation in organizations, because big organizations are made up of individual people. It's
yeah,
amazing how that happens.
yeah,
So yeah, so a lot of different opportunities to connect. I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook. Lead Outside the Lines is the name of my company for a reason. It's about breaking through, breaking out of that box. We all put ourselves in a box in
yeah.
some ways, right? So breaking out of that box and really just going for it. So that's what I bring to the table. And I love just being a guide on the side. I will say that. A lot of people are like, and there's a saying, and you mentioned a little bit about it, when the student is ready, the teacher appears, right? There's a saying about that. And it is true. I don't like to see myself as a teacher. Yes, I bring different perspectives, but I'm more of a guide alongside, helping you create what it is you most want in your life.
I love it. That's fantastic. Well, Tina, thank you again for joining.
Thanks, Matt.
And if you guys want to connect with Tina, she gave you a few ways. If you can't find those ways, reach out to me. I'll connect you to her directly. Tina, don't hang up. Everyone else, if you're still there, have a great day and be awesome.